Hey everybody. Today I want to talk to you about life. And the kind of life we're talking about today is really the pro-life issue. Um, as a Christian, I am pro-life. I've done videos to that effect in the past, so I think people are, for the most part, pretty well aware of that. But the reason I wanted to address it one more time is because I've been asked by people in the past, can a Christian be pro-choice? You know, and there's certainly Christians out there who believe that no, being pro-choice is just completely incompatible with being a Christian. And but I have had people ask me that, can I be pro-choice and still be a Christian? What I generally tell people when they ask me that is, I say being pro-life is not a requirement of salvation. You know, there are certain requirements of salvation that we find in the Bible, but being pro-life isn't one of them. So if you're a pro-choice person and you want to, be saved, well, being pro-choice isn't going to keep you from being saved. So on one hand, I will say that. On the other hand, I will also have to admit that I really believe, you know, in my innermost being that if you are a Christian, that really, if you've really turned your heart and life and soul and mind over to God, and allowed Him to become the Lord of all those things, that at some point, not too far down the road, if you are pro-choice, that's going to change. It has to. Um, so, effectively, to say that I believe that if you are a Christian, you will be pro-life at some point before too long, because being pro-choice really isn't compatible. It's not a compatible fruit with submitting your life and your will and your mind and everything to God. I say this because, the Bible is really clear. You can look at Psalm 139 and it talks about, God forming a baby in the womb, essentially that each baby is handmade by God, the interest that God has in that unborn life, and the Bible talks about how, God has ordained our lives for us before we're even born, you know, um, all that kind of stuff is in the Bible, so you really can't, from a biblical perspective, say that unborn life isn't to be valued just as much as born life. Um, if you are a Christian, you have to, at some point, come to value life, especially innocent human life. Not having, not placing a high value on innocent human lives, it's just not compatible with the fruits of Christianity. So while I would say that you don't have to be pro-life to get saved or to become a Christian, I would say that pro-life would certainly be a fruit of becoming a Christian. It's kind of like what James talks about in the book of James, where he's talking about faith, and he says, you know, he's dealing with the question of being saved by faith alone. And the argument that some would make that I don't have to have any works, I don't have to produce good fruit, I don't have to have any works at all, because I have faith. And, James' response to that is kind of, well, okay, but if your faith doesn't produce any good works, then it's a dead faith and it's powerless to save you. So his argument is that true faith produces good works. True faith brings us into alignment with God's will, God's purposes, God's values. Okay? And in that same way, I would appeal to that same kind of thing to say that if you are a Christian, if you've given your heart to the Lord, if you've submitted yourself, heart, mind, and soul to God, at some point, probably not too far down the road, you're going to have to come around to placing a high value on innocent human life, born or unborn, because the Bible clearly places that high value on life either way. So I wanted to comment on that just to set the record straight. It's not a requirement of salvation, certainly not. But if you're going to bring yourself into alignment with who God is, which really is our purpose as Christians, to do that, to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, Romans 1, 12, 1 and 2. So that's it. That's all I got to say. Talk to you next time.